Hello and welcome to episode 9 of Tech Chompers live stream. It is April the 29th, Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Central, where you will find us live on Facebook and on YouTube weekly. I'm going to move this microphone a little bit closer. That's a little too close. Maybe there's good. And we are here talking about tech, all things tech. I don't care really what. I love all things tech, whether it's space travel tech or computer tech or gadget tech. I mostly gadgets and computers, honestly. I don't do a lot of space travel, but it sounds fun is all I'm saying. So welcome to the show. Let's jump into the topic for tonight. As usual, if you have questions at all that you need help with, any tips maybe you're trying to purchase something, you want some advice, whatever you need, pop it in the comments over here, and I will answer it if I can right now. If I can't, then I will look up an answer and get back to you. And if it's something that looks like it would help a lot of people, then I will happily put it on the live stream for next week, or maybe the week after. I don't know, but soon, hopefully, so that it helps you, because it's not good if it takes 2 weeks to get an answer. What use is that? So, all right, well, until I see questions from other people, I'm going to dive into the topic I picked for tonight, which is a popular one I run into a lot at work: cleaning up spyware, or better yet, just not getting spyware or malware in the first place. And so a bunch of different tools in the arsenal that I use to clean up spyware infections or malware infections, which I get less these days than I used to, but it is still a pretty common thing that happens where somebody calls with weird pop-ups. And so let's talk about some of the symptoms you might see. First of all, anytime you're seeing a lot of weird pop-ups and you are not opening those from your browser or not even cruising to new web pages, that's not a good sign. Shouldn't really just be randomly opening tabs or browsers, particularly if you have no browser window open at all and it suddenly just pops open and starts going to web pages. That's not a good sign. Normal marketing stuff, yes, you can get some pop-ups. Maybe you go to Best Buy or somewhere, I don't know, and you get a pop-up for something there, or some other news sites. But typically, you shouldn't get just a lot of random pop-ups happening when you're not even surfing the web. So essentially, that's one of the things you could see. You also might see that your system gets really slow and bogged down doing tasks that it used to be fine with. If you've recently installed an update or something like that, could be the culprit. But if you haven't made any major changes and suddenly it just is running a lot slower, taking forever to load pages, that's another sign that I see a lot that happens. And basically, just any kind of weird behavior. Maybe people start emailing you and telling you that they're getting messages from you that you didn't send. That's not a good sign either. So those are all kind of things that you might see. Hello. And basically, the best thing to do is download one of the free tools out there and run a cleanup on it. And the first thing that I usually start with is one called Adw Cleaner that is free. It used to be a standalone product, but it has been acquired by Malwarebytes. And so now they have both on their webpage. So I'm going to share this browser tab so you can see it here. And I'm going to hide this caption out of the way so you can see the screen. So over here, basically, when you go looking for Adw Cleaner, it's Malwarebytes/Adw Cleaner, because that is where they put it now that they own it. They've just got it as a subdomain on there, or a subfolder rather. And so, as you can see, free download up here. Whenever you click on this, it's probably going to prompt you for 2 downloads. It's going to start that one, which is Malwarebytes setup. And then it's also going to offer you the ability to download the other program as well. So both of those are good. I usually start with Adw Cleaner, and then once I have run a clean with Adw Cleaner, I will switch from that over and run the full Malwarebytes. I can run through a sample cleaning with both of those if people would like to see that. But basically, I usually run Malwarebytes after that. And the last program that I go to, I'll pop that one up here, is a program called Hitman Pro. And it is a really good program. They consider themselves a secondary cleanup tool after you've run all your other cleanup tools. They say you want to run this one. And essentially, this will find leftover bits and pieces that the first 2 scans you ran might have missed. And honestly, even though I want to trust just one product, I typically end up running more than one. Usually these 3. I'll run Adw Cleaner, followed by Malwarebytes, followed by Hitman Pro. It's kind of a pain. Depending on the system speed, if you've got a really fast system with an SSD and a decent amount of RAM, like 8 gigs or more, I wouldn't expect the scans to take terribly long, usually a few minutes. If you have terabytes of data, it could take longer if you're doing a full file scan, but usually it's pretty quick. On older, slower systems, I've definitely seen scan times in excess of an hour, so it can be time consuming. Easy thing to do, just start them maybe when you're going to go to bed, take a lunch break. You don't need your computer for an hour or so. That's a great time to run them. I do that for clients a lot where I'll remote in and run it during a lunch break so that I try to interrupt their work the least amount possible. And so just varies, like I say, depending on system performance and age and specs. But basically, all the tools seem to find a little bit different stuff, sometimes some different pieces of the same program. Maybe one finds registry entries, maybe one finds actual executables, maybe another one finds an add-on that was put into Chrome or Firefox. And so that's why I typically run at least those three. Another one that I have used in the past was oh goodness, what is, I can't think of the spyware something. I'll think of it here in a minute. I don't really use the other ones. I've gone through a lot. There was Lavasoft Adware that was popular for a while. Spy Hunter is one some people use. I personally just like the Malwarebytes product and the Hitman Pro product, probably the best if I were going to pick just two. Malwarebytes is a great one if you want to set up. They've got a subscription that you can do, or an annual license rather, where it will monitor for spyware and any type of malware that's trying to add itself to your browsers or cause trouble for your machine. And so even if you have virus protection, a lot of times the virus protection does not catch spyware and malware. They just kind of are different beasts. You used to see a lot of viruses in the early days. That was primarily what I would run into when somebody had a problem. But these days, it's really not viruses very often anymore. It is usually malware or spyware. And even now, a lot of the stuff, not that there's not some that's really bad these days, but most of the stuff back in the day would delete files, corrupt files, just kind of cause mayhem on your computer. And mostly they have gotten the security where it can't really do a lot of that stuff anymore. And so the big thing you see now is that they will usually drive you crazy with pop-ups and crazy with performance issues. And then they're going to start popping you up little windows asking for credit cards. And they're hoping that you're going to give them the credit card information, promising that they'll give you a solution to the problem or some software that's going to fix it. And the reality is they're just stealing your credit card information. It's a scam, and they basically aren't going to fix anything really. Or even if they do, they've stolen your credit card information in the meantime, and they're going to go on a shopping spree. So number one, they're looking for credit cards. That's the biggest thing they're trying to accomplish. Two, another thing that I have seen a lot is some people get a pop-up that will either tell them they need to call Microsoft or Dell or some specific person, or even stranger, they'll get a call from someone on the phone suddenly that will say they are with Microsoft or with Dell or with one of the companies, and that they have detected that your computer has been compromised or infected or something like that. And then they're going to want to remote in basically and try to fix the problem. And really, they don't really fix anything. They will remote in typically if you'll let them in. And once they're into the computer, excuse me, they're going to pull up something banal like an error log or something that doesn't really mean anything. It's some basic errors, yes, but not anything affecting your computer in the way that they're saying it is. And they're going to use that to kind of show you, hey, look, here's the problem. I can fix this for you and earn your trust by showing you this information. And at that point, they're going to ask for a credit card again, because that's the primary goal with all these, is get the credit card so they can go buy things online. And they know that the credit card companies are not going to hold people accountable rather, for fraud on this stuff. So they don't really care. They figure it's all going to get written off. And so they're just trying to scam you out of credit cards. And so those are another way that they get with you, is call you, or maybe text you even and try to get you to reach out. Dell or Microsoft or any of those major companies are never going to call your phone or reach out to you directly and ask you suddenly to give them a credit card so they can fix the problem. That's just not the way they operate. That would be very peculiar and I think intrusive for people. So if you ever get one of those calls saying, hey, I see there's a problem with your computer, just hang up on them, or torture them with some type of made up story and pretend that you're helping them and waste their time if you have nothing else you want to do. But ultimately, I would just get off the phone with them so that they're not trying to break into your stuff. And I guess another program that is popular that I use, that's popular for another issue, is Bitdefender. And the main reason that I use Bitdefender is because of ransomware. And ransomware is the problem software these days in terms of spyware or malware that is very invasive and very problematic. Like I said, most things these days drive you crazy and just want a credit card. But ransomware is far, far worse and more malicious. What they will do with ransomware is it can come in a lot of different ways. I've seen people get a link that says, hey, maybe at a company that does estimating or invoicing for somebody in their accounting department, they'll send an email that says, hey, click on this to download this invoice, or click on this link to grab this latest bid or document or estimate or whatever it is. And them being used to getting those types of things in email, but maybe this one looks a little different, but maybe they're like, whatever, it could be a new client. They will click on it and a web page doesn't even load. It will just kind of flash sometimes and nothing happens. And they're like, oh, the link didn't work. And the reality is something just installed on your machine when you went to that link. And so that's one way. Another way is compromised PDFs that they will put things into so that when you open the PDF, it's going to launch and attack your machine. Hey, Nancy, how are you? And so definitely that's one of the things you have to kind of be cautious of. And that's harder, especially if you're not used to looking for that stuff. That is one of the ways they try to jump on you. And so Bitdefender is great because it tries to block those types of malware attacks right off the bat to keep you from getting infected. And if something does start to make changes, it will roll back those changes. And it is definitely worth it. Ransomware is by far the worst type of malware to have to deal with. And so, yeah, if you can avoid it, that is what I would recommend. And so I guess some tips for avoiding malware, spyware type stuff. I would say first off the bat, definitely try not to use a Microsoft browser. Internet Explorer was full of problems. And so anything you can do to get off of Internet Explorer was good. Edge has its own issues at times. I just don't really like Edge's support of a lot of web pages. And I do think Big Defender, no, it is Bitdefender. Here, I will post a link to it here. Bitdefender. Oh, if I could type, Nancy. It's been a long day. All right, let me pull a Bitdefender here. And there's their main website. And I'm going to post it in the comments right. There you go. And so Bitdefender is really nice. They've got a lot of packs, 15 packs, depending on how many devices. They've got ones that cover mobile and desktops, Macs and PCs. So it'll cover all your devices, no problem. And I really like Bitdefender. They've got great customer service. If you have any issues with setup, or maybe once you install it, one of the problems I've run into is it has something called stealth mode, where it will try to hide your computer on a network so that if somebody's browsing for shared folders or looking for other things, it's going to try to just hide that stuff automatically, which is another way spyware and malware tries to get into computers. Is if you're maybe at a coffee shop and you've marked the network there as a private network, it was going to open up stuff on your firewall that wouldn't open on a public network because it figures you're trying to be more secure. And so once you've opened up that, maybe you've got a folder shared that you don't have any username set on. It's just open. Anybody can connect. And so somebody with malware could try to connect into that folder, start corrupting files in that folder, start causing problems for you. And so that's why they do the stealth mode. No link showed up. All right, hold on a second. I'm just going to show it on the screen. Bam, there it is. And so basically, yeah, they're gonna. I totally lost my train of thought again. I'm terrible about that. I'm gonna get better at that though. But essentially, Bitdefender has lots of options. They block stuff. They are a good product to kind of get this stuff under control. If you're looking for just one solution, there's definitely no problem with running Malwarebytes and Bitdefender both. Oh, shared folder. So yes, that's why it runs the stealth mode, is to try to hide the shared folder if you're at a coffee shop or something like that. And so Bitdefender support is great whenever I've had an issue. You can call them. They'll hop right on with you. They can remote in as well and help you resolve any issues. So they're not a sponsor or anything like that. I just think they're a really good product. It's what I recommend to my clients and what I sign them up for, and I like it. It also has a really nice control panel. If you're a small business, maybe you've got 5 or 6 computers and that's about it, but you want to know that they're all protected. There is a portal that you go to that is central.bitdefender.com. And when you've set up a license for Bitdefender and you've set up an email address there, when you log in, you'll be able to see all the computers, see if they're up to date. You can see if there have been any attacks on those computers or any types of compromises. It'll let you know if the software is malfunctioning. You can actually initiate scans for all the machines as well as force updates. So it's nice that you've got kind of a central control panel. Maybe you've just got kids and you want to put Bitdefender on an iPad and an iPhone and a couple of PCs and one of them's Mac, and just make sure you can see it all from one place. It's nice to not have to go to every device and manage it. It's a huge time saver. So I think it's more useful to home people than it used to be with the number of devices and computers people have. And so, yeah, there's, I guess, several reasons I like Bitdefender, but definitely running something like that protects you, shutting yourself off when you're on public networks, if you have a laptop you move around with, is definitely another way to protect yourself against malware and spyware stuff. Being really cautious if you open an email and it says it's from your bank, rather than clicking on the link in the email, I just recommend, if you have a favorite or a bookmark already, use that. Or if you don't, just type in the URL directly and go straight to the website and then log in there. A lot of those are what's called phishing scams. And what they're trying to do is they will replicate a site that looks like your bank, or looks like whatever site that they're pretending that maybe your password has been compromised. And so they'll say, hey, log in quickly and reset your password. And then when you go to reset the password, they go, oh, by the way, can you validate your social security number to verify it's you? Or can you give us your billing address? And so they're just getting all this information from you, phishing you, and essentially finding a way that they can scam you out of money later on. And so if you see any of those, like I say, links in email, I would just open the link directly or use your favorite bookmark and go there, rather than trying to go through the link you got in email. It's just safer that way. You already know that one's trusted. And also, if anybody calls you or pops on like that and starts just asking for credit card information or asking you to update some type of billing stuff, I would always just ignore it and go to the source. If you're ever concerned about it, ever just have any kind of weird feeling about it, I would just definitely immediately reach out to whoever it's through and ask them what they think, see if they're actually trying to reach you. That's the safest bet, because they should know. And that'll usually keep you out of a lot of trouble too. Another thing that I see is if people are surfing the web, typically they're looking for something and not going to sites that they always go to. If you always go to your church site and your bank site and your gym website to map something or do whatever, maybe a map site you use, you don't usually get into trouble on those sites. Those are pretty safe places. Big businesses don't typically have ads that are infected with spyware or malware. And so those usually keep you pretty safe. But, once you start looking for something, maybe you start looking for a new vacuum, or I want the best hot tub, or whatever it is you're looking for that day, and you go down the rabbit hole on Google or whatever search engine you use, many times that's when I see people start clicking on links and they'll get into trouble. And so that can happen a couple of ways. One way is that a lot of the times the top links that you're going to see are sponsored links. And so sponsored links are not necessarily the official web page for whatever you're looking for. And the sponsored links, sometimes if people put up a sponsored link that has malware attached, or a link to something that's malicious, phishing scam or something like that, they don't find those immediately. It does take them time for those to find those links. Sometimes people have to report them, or some type of robot finally realizes it goes somewhere malicious or is redirecting. And so once they realize that, they'll pull the link. But in the meantime, if you've been clicking on it, or other people definitely could have gotten infected already without meaning to. And so it's not foolproof on the sponsored stuff for sure. I've seen one time where an actual website for a client, a company called Blue Moon Software, I say a client, Blue Moon Software is a piece of software a lot of apartment complexes use and stuff for leasing applications. And Blue Moon Software actually had their domain name stolen. They let it expire just on an accident. This was years ago. And somebody swooped in and basically registered the domain name out from under them and redirected it to a site that would install spyware on your machine. And so that day, all these leasing agents were opening Blue Moon Software and getting spyware, and my phone was ringing off the hook with problems that day, until we realized what was going on. And Blue Moon just lost the domain name and had to change it completely, I think, to .net from .com, because they couldn't get the domain name back because they'd let it go. And so that's really uncommon that type of compromise would happen to a trusted domain, something like, Bank of America or a big company, Best Buy, whatever. But it could happen. But typically, like I said, it's going to be a sponsored link that's not verified, or not a tried and true link that would be at the top right when you click on the search results. And so typically just look for the word sponsored. Maybe there's a little box around all of it that says sponsored, and just scroll past all that stuff down until you get to the first search result. And usually that's a better option than whatever shows up as the sponsored stuff right off the bat. Another thing I have seen is a compromised banner on an official business site, on a Longhorns basketball network website. There was a compromised banner ad on there once that kept infecting a number of clients. Couldn't figure out where they were getting it, kept cleaning their machines, looked like they were good, and it would come back, and finally figured out from other users on the forum that it was happening to lots of people, and was related to that banner ad that got taken down. So they have found lots of ways to trick people over the years and try to scam you out of money, scam you out of your login information so they can scam you out of money somewhere else. And basically, it's a lot of it is trying to just be diligent about paying attention before you click on anything, making sure you don't just click the links in the emails, not just jumping on whatever looks like it might be right, and just taking a few minutes to think about it. Another thing I typically tell people is, usually any type of spyware attack or malware stuff, they are going to try to trigger your fight or flight response mode. And by that, I mean, like I said, they're going to say, oh, your password has been compromised. You need to log in right now and change your password. Or money is being stolen out of your account. Log in now to verify your identity and lock down your account, or something to panic you. Because when you go into fight or flight response mode, your brain stops thinking logically when you're panicked. Some people don't. I realize, like tactical military trained people and people who work under duress and train to work under stressful situations, they can maintain focus under duress. But for the average person, when you think your identity's been stolen, you think money's being stolen, you've worked hard for, you think whatever's being compromised, you panic and start trying to solve it as fast as possible, and you're not thinking straight. And so that's when people start clicking on things they shouldn't, and doing things they shouldn't. And so really the best thing you can do is just take a minute, take a breath, think about it, see if it makes any sense first. Reach out to the company directly, like I said, see if you can find out what's going on there. It's a lot of stuff like that that feels like common sense to me, but I realize I've been doing this a really long time, and I'm just skeptical anyway of stuff like that. Especially when people try to panic me, I'm very skeptical of whatever's going on. And so I think that's basically a lot of stuff you can kind of watch for to avoid it. And then, like I said, installing something that is like Bitdefender or a good security package, or running those scans periodically. Nancy says, I get emails that my PayPal has been locked down every week. LOL. I know my favorite are when they tell me like a bank account has been compromised that I don't even have. I'm like, ooh, I have money at Bank of America. I need to go get that. I don't even know that was there. And I don't know, stupid stuff like that that's not real. Or, I don't know. I did have PayPal once get compromised. I don't know how they got that. It was a weird situation. I woke up and saw a series of email threads from PayPal, and the first one said I had changed my language to German, and then all the emails were coming in German after that, and I was like, well, this is weird. This kind of looks like PayPal, actually. And I called up PayPal. They were really helpful, jumped right in the account with me and took a look. And sure enough, somebody had gotten into my PayPal account. I still don't know how. My guess is a compromised password out there somewhere from a hack, most likely. I, like most people, am not perfect and sometimes do reuse some passwords. I don't typically do it on anything mission critical at all, just usually smaller stuff. PayPal, I don't know if that was what it was or not, but they got in there and had started making purchases, buying online gift cards and signing up for like online game cards that they could buy video games and stuff. And PayPal was really helpful at getting all that stuff reversed and locked them out. And so it wasn't that big of a deal, but definitely evoked some panic when I woke up and realized somebody was actually in my PayPal account. I think that's the only time I've actually had that happen, but it's a weird feeling, to say the least. One of the things that you can do for password stuff, which sometimes people think there was a fancy hack or spyware or malware, and in reality it can just be an old password that you've used a lot of times, that there could have been a compromise somewhere else, maybe even 2-3 years ago if you haven't updated a password, and they've gotten a hold of this old password list, and as they're rotating through just trying logins and passwords on sites like PayPal, any sites where they know a lot of people have an account, Gmail, stuff like that, that's really popular, Office 365, there's usually a lot of places they're going to go try your login and password, just to see if by any chance there's an account there they can get into and something they could compromise. And so keeping your passwords separate at all the different places you use is a pain, but it is definitely a lot more secure, because if they get one password, that's all they have is that one password. And then, one of the things that I recommend and have before is a password management tool. I really like LastPass. Again, not a sponsor at all, but I just really like LastPass. It's what I've used for a while. And they have actually some cool security checks where it will run a scan and check all of your passwords and see if you have any duplicate passwords anywhere. And then it will let you know what those are. And on a lot of the bigger sites like Gmail or Best Buy or Amazon, stuff like that, you can actually tell it to generate a password if you want, and it will make some just crazy combination of letters and numbers that doesn't make any sense. But since it's saved in LastPass, it's not like you need to remember it. And that's really the most secure thing, is let it just generate some gobbledygook of whatever it is, A297 BC 1243, whatever. And then at that point, that's not something anybody's going to ever guess. You're not even going to guess that if you needed to. So if you use something like LastPass, it does help a lot in both auditing your passwords as well as generating secure passwords and helping you track them. I think I've recommended that before. I recommend it again. What other questions do people have over here? Let's see. I don't see any questions on there. I'm going to hit Facebook, because I think Facebook on my personal page where I also live stream. I think did not show comments last week, so I'm gonna go check it and just make sure I'm not missing any comments over here. Nope, it looks like Nancy is on the Facebook page commenting. I don't know. I don't know what happened. But last week, Catherine was talking to me. Didn't see any of it till afterwards. Sandy was talking to me. Didn't see that one either. A couple of them I missed them. So I apologize, Catherine and Sandy, if you're out there this week. I appreciate you watching the live stream. Again, this is Brandon. The channel is Tech Chomper on Facebook and YouTube. And you can find me Thursday nights at 7 p.m. I got some other things going on coming soon. Working on some product reviews for the Tech Chomper YouTube page. That's where you can always find all my latest product reviews. There are only two, sadly, right now, but I intend to start cranking out more of those, as well as upping the content coming out. So if you guys have things you'd like me to make videos about, if there are questions I can answer, please let me know. You can tell me in the comments. You can shoot me a message on Facebook. You can message me on YouTube. However you want to reach out. If you know my cell phone number, I'm not giving it to you here. I don't need the stalkers. I've had those before, and that's a weird situation. So if you know my number, reach out. Shout out to you. Nancy says, what do you do with old laptops that still work but slow and 15 years old? 15 years old. My nose itches. Please stand by. Oh, allergies are rough in Austin right now. 15-year-old laptop. Does it still run? That's crazy. If you have a 15-year-old laptop, I think I have one that's about 12 years old that still works. It is a Core 2 Duo. I think that was about 12 years ago. And it still works, has an SSD. I think it's maxed out with 8 gigs of RAM. It is not fast, and it does not manage to use all of a gigabit internet connection because it can't. It's just too slow. Yes, it still works, and not too bad. A Toshiba, she says. Oh, I still got that thing on the screen over there. We're gonna get rid of that. I forgot that was there. So 15-year-old laptop, you have options. I'm sure there are some charities you could donate it to. Usually with old computers, for most of my clients, what I do is just donate them to Goodwill. There are arguments to be had for and against Goodwill. That's not the place of this show to debate the merits of Goodwill, so we're not even getting into that right now. But Goodwill has an e-recycling center where they break down computers, and one of the things I know, nose is driving me crazy, people. I apologize. One of the things that they have is an kind of waste e-recycling, I don't know, computer area. And at the time when I visited several years ago, they were bringing in students, apparently, I don't know, for extracurricular, or I'm not sure what they were doing. And they were breaking down computers into components, and then they would put all those components out in bins super cheap. So if you are a person that is on low income, fixed income, whatever, and you still need a computer because mostly what I see these days is you want to get a job, you need email, you need access to email. You can do that on a phone, but it's hard to type your resume, manage everything on a phone. You know, a tablet's a little easier. You got a little bigger screen. But most people want to use a computer and sit down and type out their information, do some research. And so, yeah, basically what I saw them do is they'll tear it down, part it out. I just wipe it before I get rid of it. And the tool that I use has a funny name. It is a program called Kill Disk. And I will bring it up here in a browser and show it to you. How about that? And I've been using this program for, I don't even know how many years now. Let's see. Is that Kill Disk? There we go. Active Kill Disk. I'm going to pop it up on the screen here. So Active Kill Disk is the one that I use. And essentially, this one is free. It will do the one-pass erase on free. They have an upgraded version I think you can pay for, where if you have to commit to like government level security wipes, which I think is 4 times or 5 times, I don't remember. I don't have to deal with that issue. I don't really work with any government contracts or anything that secure. And so they have one where it'll do a certain number of wipes, and then when it's done, it will actually give you a little certificate that you can print out that shows that the drive has been wiped. And what it will do is just go across the entire hard drive and write ones and zeros across the whole drive so that there's nothing recoverable. Sometimes if you think that you formatted a drive or erase it, there are ways to still recover that stuff. You know, I tell most people, unless you're doing like medical record keeping or bookkeeping or something like that that's critical, most people are probably not going to get your computer and try to go through and look for stuff. So just usually emptying your recycle bin, deleting your documents and stuff and emptying it. it's usually enough for people doing basic stuff. But if you have any concerns about something getting out that, maybe there are pictures you don't want getting out, I don't need to know what those pictures are. Maybe there's just documents on there, like I said, that are client data that are sensitive, then Kill Disk is going to make sure that there's no way it can be recovered. And for most people, just even the one pass is complete. It does take time. If you're using a spinning hard drive that's old, it could take, if you've got like a multi-terabyte drive, it could take many hours. But essentially, you can download this software, run it for free. It's going to wipe it out. I think they will let you make a little boot disk in there, basically from a USB stick. I usually pull all the hard drives out, and I've got a little, here I can show you. I've got this little hard drive device here that has 2 slots that I can put hard drives into. It's got a little connector hidden down in there. And so I use this plugged into a USB connector. Whenever I wipe hard drives, I pull them out of the machine, stick them in that, run the wipe with Kill Disk on my machine. But you can also make a USB stick and then boot the computer from that USB stick and have it wipe the drive as well. So you don't have to disassemble a laptop or anything like that if you don't want to. And the only thing to be careful of if you ever use Kill Disk on a computer that's your main computer and you're wiping another drive is just to make sure you pick the right drive, because when it starts wiping it, it's really hard to get that data. If it just starts into it, it automatically has created major problems for you. So it basically has a confirmation thing before you finish. When you tell it to kill a disk, if you're running from another computer, or even I think on the USB stick, it pops up and asks you to type in all caps erase all data and then hit enter, or else it will not begin the disk wipe. And so that's just a major safety precaution, because if you wipe a disk and didn't have a backup, you are a very sad and angry person. It's not recommended. So Kill Disk, that's what I would say. Also, if people need me to wipe them, I take care of that for clients too. So whatever you need, let me know, Nancy. I'm happy to help. But I would say Kill Disk. I've been using that one for free for many, many years. What other questions do we have? What computer is too old to keep? Where do you draw the line? When does a PC become obsolete? Excellent question, Sheridan. So depending on what you do, I would say that right now, a 4th gen Intel processor, like 3rd gen is pretty old. I mean, that's honestly, I guess, 8 years old for a 3rd gen. A 4th gen is 7 years old roughly at this point. So a 4th gen i3, i5, i7, they are still a decent processor. If you are somebody that is just getting on the internet and you check your Gmail, you surf Facebook, you send pictures to grandma, I don't know, whatever you do that's super basic stuff on your computer, not really doing necessarily a lot of video conferencing. You could probably do basic Zoom and stuff like that too, but you're not doing any heavy work on it. You're doing kind of basic stuff. Maybe you've got Office, so you're using Word and Excel, stuff like that. Any of those 4th gen processors, consistently, if you will add an SSD, if it doesn't have one, and max out the RAM, which most of the computers that age are going to be between 8 and 16 gigs of RAM, if you just max those out and add an SSD, they are amazingly usable. They are not near as fast as a new machine. When you go from a spinning drive to an SSD, you gain about 5 times the performance level. And then when you go from an SSD to the newest types of SSD called an NVMe, you go up like another 10 times in speed. And so it's just a huge increase in terms of opening programs, booting Windows, loading stuff, getting to your data. And so when you can upgrade that basically to at least the first version of SSD, that drastically improves the performance of the machine, because that was always a bottleneck for those machines. They were always capable of more. And just to cut costs, because SSDs were so expensive at the time, all those computers tended to ship with spinning drives. Most of the newer ones, it's gotten so cheap, it's really common to find things with SSDs. If not a full SSD, like a 512 or 1 terabyte, 512 gigabyte or 1 terabyte drive. Some of the ones with smaller ones will have like a 256 gig SSD and then a 1 terabyte spinning drive. So you've got a data drive you can load a lot of stuff on, as well as a fast system drive to boot from and load your applications from. But on anything older like that, that's 7 years old, I would highly recommend put RAM and SSD in it. And then they're great. Kids could use them for doing stuff. You could use it for educational content. There's a lot of great stuff, like Leapfrog has their website where you can sign up for a monthly subscription, and there's lots of educational games. Old laptop like that would be great for kids. Maybe you just want something for grandma so she can hop on the webcam, or be able to like open up the internet and go look in Facebook Marketplace so she can buy something. any stuff like that, a fourth gen or faster is going to be plenty if you upgrade them with an SSD and RAM. Not that you can't use them without, they just are showing their age at this point if you've got a spinning drive. Typically, a boot time for a 7-year-old laptop with a spinning drive, it might be a minute or two to get everything loaded up. And then when you open applications, maybe it's 30-40 seconds sometimes to open an application. Whereas when you've got like the first gen of SSD, just a standard SATA SSD, you're going to see performance gains where you boot in maybe 20 seconds and you're already at the login screen. And then in terms of, maybe 30 seconds. And then in terms of opening applications, 5 seconds, 8 seconds, 2 seconds. I mean, it just depends on what it is, but it definitely makes just an across the board performance increase, which really starts to add up through the course of a day. If you're sitting there messing around and surfing the web and doing stuff, it'll even make the internet feel faster, because whenever you load a web page, all of those pictures and all that data has to download to the hard drive first and get cached there and then gets displayed in the browser. And so if you've got an SSD, it makes that whole process of caching it and spitting it out to the browser a lot quicker. And so pages will load faster on the web, they'll scroll faster, everything will just feel much more responsive. And then once you get past a fourth gen, if you start getting to like a sixth gen, for example, on the Intel processors, by that point, the i5s and i7s got beefed up and got some extra cores on them. And so a sixth gen is actually a decent machine if you're shooting, especially like 1080 video stuff. You could definitely edit 1080 video on a sixth gen processor. Maybe even some of the 4K stuff that's not too heavily compressed, but you're pushing your luck on that probably. But 1080 stuff definitely could get away with. You could do some gaming. You're not going to be able to play on the full high settings on the latest greatest games for sure. And the reality is, if you start getting into that kind of stuff, you want a fancy video card, and at that point you don't want your system to bottleneck. So there's a whole bunch of other specs to start considering as you move up to a high-end graphics card. But for the average user, a sixth gen or newer is going to feel really fast, especially again with an SSD and RAM. Don't have to max it as it starts to go up. When it starts to get like 32 and 64 gigs and more that systems can handle, I typically say on Windows 10, 8 gigs, I think it will run on 4 minimum. I would not use Windows 10 on 4. It is, I guess if you have an SSD and 4 gigs of RAM, it'll be tolerable, but you're definitely experiencing bottlenecks on a newer machine that you just shouldn't experience if you just upgraded some of the RAM. So I would say 8 gigs minimum for a basic user doing internet stuff. If you're somebody that likes to open a lot of tabs and you've got Excel open and Word open and a bunch of stuff like that, then I would say probably going up to 16 gigs of RAM is going to help out. It just, especially if you start opening a lot of browser tabs, it is crazy how memory hungry Firefox and Chrome are these days. And a lot of that is web pages have way more video content and stuff that loads and large images, and so all of that stuff takes up a lot more resources, and so having the extra RAM for that definitely helps with the browsers. If you are editing 4K video, I would say probably an 8th gen Intel. I don't know the comparable AMDs, to be honest. I can look it up if people want to know. I mostly recommend Intel. If you are a hardcore gamer, I think that AMD does have some faster options, and I do believe Threadripper, I think until the latest Intel, was actually dominating in Premiere. It was a little faster, depending on the type of content you were rendering. But the Threadripper was a little faster, actually, than Intel offerings. I believe the latest Intel offering has, again, crushed that. And so, not that Intel is perfect. They've had problems. Trust me, we've gone into that before. But I usually use Intel. They're considered in the business world. That's what most people go with is Intel. I don't know if I guess it has a reputation of being more reliable, more business focused, whereas AMD was kind of more the budget performance gamer focused in the past. I don't think that's as true necessarily these days. They definitely have gone trying to get into that video editing market with both the AMD graphics cards and the AMD Threadripper multi-core processors. But by and large, I exist in the Intel world. And so, if you're going to do 4K, I would say 8th gen or newer. Definitely an i7 if you're trying to do 4K is going to be great for that. Also for gaming. And also when you get to that level, if you're watching 4K videos on YouTube all the time, something like that's going to have a lot easier time playing 4K. Obviously, you can pick lots of different resolutions on YouTube. It's not like you have to watch it 4K, especially since so many people watch on their phone. Like you would know 4K on your phone from 1080. You will not. And if you tell me you can, I will call you a liar to your face happily. Just let me know anytime. I don't think you can see it. If you can, I'm sorry for you. That's a horrible world you live in. I don't want to be able to see the difference on a 4-inch screen. I want a 120-inch screen if I'm going to watch 4K or something like that. So, yeah, I don't know. those are pretty much it. Anything past an 8th gen, at that point, you have a beast of a machine. The 9th, 10th, 11th gen processors are all just screaming fast, way more RAM than most people need, super fast hard drives for the SSDs, and those NVMe SSDs keep getting cheaper and cheaper. There have been obviously the ongoing chip shortage issues, which are driving the price of everything up. I don't care what it is, if it's cars or computers or upgrades for them or other gadgets or cell phones or electric bikes. It doesn't really matter. All that stuff is just being driven up right now by demand and the chip problems with any type of electronic things with the shortage. So yeah, we'll see how that rides out over the next year or two. They're still saying that's like definitely going to be at least a year before graphics cards get back in stock. I think regularly, maybe a little longer, and then probably 2 years before we work through the glut of shortages with chips for all the other technical and gadget based items out there, because there's just, I don't know, it takes a while to set up a new factory and tool up and whatever else they're going to do. So that's what we're dealing with, people. It is not a great situation. 2021 is a little rough. We're dealing with it, but it's a little rough. What other questions do people have out there? Let's see. I do not see a question on there. All right. Well, if you have your questions, like I said, always post them in the chat. You can message me in between. I'm happy to answer them. We'll either answer you in a message or answer you on the live stream if it seems like it'll help other people. And let me know if there's topics people want me to cover. If you have an idea for something that you would like to see talked about in the live stream or anything else, hit me up. Happy to cover it. Can I recommend a smart garage door opener? Sure. The one that I chose is the MyQ. And the reason I chose it is it's just so darn cheap. It's ridiculously cheap. Give me a second here, and I will pull up the MyQ garage door opener. No, we're not gonna put in our email right now. Where is it? Where is it? I know it's here. Let's find it. MyQ garage opener. I'm gonna pull it up here. Oh, jeez. Where is it? Well, there it is on Amazon. I don't know where their page is. I'm trying to find it right now. I know it's on here somewhere. App, automotive. Where is it? There it is. All right. Oh, did they change it up? I think they've changed it up here. I'm going to pop this up on the screen. So, garage opener. Does that say not Wi-Fi enabled? Oh, that's something else. Where is the MyQ garage door opener? Did they stop selling it? I don't know where it is right now. Let's go find it on Amazon because I know it's over there. So this little guy is the MyQ. That says $19.99 in stock soon. That is ridiculously cheap for that thing. So the MyQ, that was why I got it. I think it was like $35 or $37 when I got it. And essentially it consists of this piece right here, which is the main unit that mounts in the garage near the garage door opener that you have. And this works with whatever, like most brands of garage door openers, this will either has the remote signal pre-programmed or can learn the remote and communicate with your garage door opener. So this is a way to upgrade a non-smart garage door with technology that makes it a quote unquote somewhat smart garage door. And so you've got this big piece here that goes in the garage. This in the middle here is a light that is a safety light that strobes before the door closes to alert people hearing impaired or otherwise. Maybe you just have headphones on and aren't listening. And then the unit itself has the ability to connect to your Wi-Fi network so that it can talk to the app. And then it also has the ability to talk to the garage door opener in whatever its native language is for its remote signal. And then this piece is the little remote piece that goes on the garage door. It's the position sensor. And so that piece attaches to the garage door. It either has double-sided tape you can just stick it on, or there's a couple of screws that come with it, and you can drill some holes. That's what I did, because in Texas, I don't trust double-sided tape. Are you out of your mind? You're just waiting for a head injury later. If you're going to mount it up here, it's not going to stay in Texas. So I went with the screw option, drilled some little holes in the center beam on the garage door and mounted it up high, and essentially put it up real high so that anytime the sensor is in a position like this, so the door is down, it knows it. But as the door starts to go up and the sensor leans like this, it will automatically talk to the base station there, let it know that the garage door is in the open position, and let you know until it's closed. And so you've got some cool functionality with that. For one, with the little MyQ app that you can see there, they've got it open on the phone there on the side. The little MyQ app, when it is open, it basically will show you whether the door is open or closed the minute you open it. And then if you tap that symbol in the middle, if it's closed, it's just going to open it for you. And if it is open when you tap that button to close it, the base station is going to start beeping really loud and flashing that strobe light that's on there. And it's going to do that for, I believe, 30 seconds, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it's 20 seconds, somewhere in there. And then once it's done that, it's going to go ahead and close the garage door. Your door, typically any garage door at a house these days, should have that. I cannot think of what the name it is, but the sensor that basically detects whether there's anything in the way of the garage door or not. So even if you had this go off, somebody misses the strobe, they miss the beeping, and they try to go in or out of the garage door, as soon as they break that beam on that safety device, it should automatically reverse the garage door anyway. So they're not really adding that extra safety to this, but they do try to notify you the door is about to move with the strobe light. And the strobe light is bright. I mean, when I'm outside my garage on the driveway and look in the garage, you can tell it is flashing. Even in your peripheral vision, you can see that because it is a bright strobe. And one thing I learned about this device that was interesting to me, I didn't even know was going to be an issue. I mounted it on the ceiling right next to my garage door opener, thinking, putting it right next to it, fantastic reception. Because sometimes when you have Wi-Fi issues with a laptop or something, I'll tell people go right next to the access point, and when you're right next to it, you get great reception. But in this case, when I would talk to it, it was on the Wi-Fi fine, but when it would try to broadcast to talk to the garage door, it would cause some type of weird issue when it sent the remote signal and would not talk to the garage door, wouldn't open or close it. I called support, and they told me, move it further away, stick it somewhere else, don't put it right next to the opener, it's too close. And sure enough, if I finished reading all the stuff, which I'm guilty of not reading all of it sometimes. Sometimes I think I'm a tech guy. I can figure this out. It's an app. How hard is this going to be? I didn't read the part that says don't mount it like within 6 feet of the opener because it might actually not work. So I moved it to the front wall of the garage, and the strobe light is pointed out from the front wall into the street, basically out at the door directly, because it's mounted vertically like this instead of up on the ceiling. And so because of that, you see that strobe really well all through the garage whenever it goes off nicely. And it works great since I've had it on the front, and it's really nice. I like it just because when I'm in the car, before I ever get home, use the phone, open the garage door right as I roll up, so it's ready if I need to load some stuff up or to unload stuff, whatever. And why I like it better than I know a lot of cars have them built into the car. But I know my dad has this concern. He grew up making me paranoid about. I grew up with him making me paranoid about this because he'd bring it up about the garage door openers being in the car. Somebody popped the window and hit the button, and he's not wrong. If the car is on or has the ability to use that garage door opener when the car is not on, then somebody could hit the button and go right into your garage. And so with something like this, where it's on an app on your phone, they would have to get a hold of your phone in order to open the garage door, which hopefully you're not leaving in your car, because we've learned that's a terrible idea by the number of phones stolen every day in this country from cars. So if your phone is in your pocket or something, more secure. One of the things I have noticed that I really like, I know I talked about getting the Apple Watch a few weeks ago. Apple Watch, I continue to find things that I really like about it. One of them is the garage door opener application. The MyQ app that's on your phone has also an app for the Apple Watch. And so it integrates together in a way that makes it actually easier to use, really. And that is that when you have the phone, if the app is closed and you want to open your garage door opener, you basically unlock your phone or open your phone, whatever, if you don't lock it, open your phone, and then you open the app. And I have mine set up to use Face ID, but you've either got to use Face ID or a password to log into the app. And then once it's logged in, it will finally show you your garage door and whatever other devices from them that you have added to the MyQ app. And so in my case, I have just the garage door opener. And so basically I will see that in the app, and then I can hit the button and open the garage door. And so sometimes as I'm walking outside the house, my Wi-Fi is getting weak. The 4G hasn't really picked up on the phone very well. And so sometimes there's a little struggle for 20 seconds where it's fighting to try to be able to connect and open it. And with the Apple Watch, it's interesting the way they chose to address it on the app on that, which they've done several things to make it easier to use some of the secure stuff through the Apple Watch, is that essentially when you open the Apple Watch MyQ app, it doesn't, the first time you open it, it actually asks you to log in with the username and password in the app itself to authenticate that you're trying to use it on the watch. And then once it's done that initial pair, it doesn't ever ask you on the watch to log in that way, which is really nice. The Apple Watch, if you have a pin set on it, like you can do on the phone, then whenever the watch goes on your wrist for the first time of the day, it will be locked and it will ask you to enter your pin to unlock the watch. And then as long as the watch is on your wrist, it will stay unlocked indefinitely. But the minute you take it off of your wrist and lay it down, it locks again and requires the pin to unlock, which you can unlock it laying on the table as well as on your wrist. But if you have the watch set up that way, then basically, even if you left your watch somewhere, someone wouldn't be able to hop in your garage because they figure the watch is going to be on your wrist or secure, which in my case, it pretty much always is. And so essentially, that makes it less of a security issue for them to allow you to just open the app and hit the open button on the watch because they can tell that it's on somebody's wrist and that person has entered the pin to unlock it. Whereas on the app, on the phone, if somebody found your phone, maybe they unlocked it, maybe they didn't. They don't know if there's a PIN number on there. And so that's why they've made that a little more secure. And so I like that. And that's another thing that they've made a couple of things easier with Apple updates for those of you using Apple. If you have been using Face ID on your iPhone, which I did not set up until literally like February, right before the pandemic hit. I had been using a PIN and never used Face ID. And I finally was like, all right, I'll use Face ID, fine. And so I went ahead and set up Face ID. And then within a few weeks, they're like, wear a mask everywhere for the rest of your freaking life. And so wearing the mask the whole time it makes it really hard because every time you lift your phone, it cannot recognize you. Even if you try to add an alternate appearance, that works okay if you have glasses or a hat or something sometimes. But with the mask, it does not work. There's just not enough points on your face for it to line up with and data to deal with. And so essentially, if you have a mask, you have to enter the PIN code every time when you're in public or take your mask off to unlock your phone and put it back on. And so in the iOS 14.5 update that they just released in the last few days, that one actually, one of the major updates is that if you have an Apple Watch and an iPhone, which if you have an Apple Watch and you don't have an iPhone, I don't know what you're doing because they don't even work. They Appled that thing. Samsung went with both. Apple, you need an iPhone to even activate or set up the Apple Watch. You cannot set it up without an iPhone. So you will be having an iPhone or an iPhone friend. And so with the Apple Watch, they have set it where basically if you have the PIN set up on your watch and you have it unlocked, then anytime you hold up your phone with Face ID now, when it sees a mask, it will automatically go, oh, their watch is on their wrist, their watch is unlocked, so it must be them with the phone, and it will just unlock your phone like that. And I've been using it for the last 2 days, and it is crazy awesome. I'm used to sitting there having to constantly punch in the code, which sometimes you're at the grocery store and I've got my list on there, and every time I set it down, it locks, or I put it in my pocket, I lock it, and then I punch in the code again, and that just gets tiresome doing that 30 times at the H-E-B. I got better things to do with the H-E-B, like look for delicious snacks that I haven't seen before under the H-E-B brand. Again, they're not a sponsor, but they are delicious. So, list. I'm off topic. Code a bunch of times. It's annoying with the watch. You don't have to deal with that anymore since 14.5. You just hold up the phone. It sees that there's a mask and unlocks the phone with your watches on. And it is kind of cool for a safety measure. On the watch, you get a little tap on the wrist, and it actually says that your phone has been unlocked. And that way, if maybe somebody was near you, maybe you left your phone on your desk and you're 10 feet away and somebody else picks up your phone and they've got a mask on and it unlocks for them, when you get that tap on your wrist, it actually has a lock phone button on there that it shows right off the bat. So you could relock your phone remotely as soon as you see that on your watch. And then to unlock the phone, you have to enter the PIN code. It won't unlock with Face ID again until you enter the PIN code. So pretty cool. More and more sites are saying we no longer support old versions of Windows. Upgrade to 10. So irritating. If you don't want to upgrade, are there workarounds? There are not a lot of workarounds at this point, to be honest. Really, I guess the only thing you could kind of do if you didn't want to reload Windows 10 is you could install a virtual machine like Microsoft. If you've got Windows 10 Pro, I don't think you can do it on home, but if you've got Windows 10 Pro, Hyper-V is their free virtualization platform, if you will. Basically, what that means is you can create a software-based version of a computer that runs on top of your actual computer. And so with Hyper-V, you could create a Windows 10 machine, a Windows 8 machine, a Windows 7 machine, which a lot of IT people will do for troubleshooting or programmers for troubleshooting. And then each of those machines, you essentially open the Hyper-V app, and then start the virtual machine, and it starts this virtual computer that shares hardware with your computer, can get on the internet, it can do all that stuff. And so that's one way you could have on top of Windows 7 if you use something like, I think it's Box is the name of one of them that'll let you do that. You can basically use that as a free option as well to run a VM on top with Windows 10 that you could do that stuff with. Um, but other than that, yeah, they want Windows 7 to go away really badly. They're not really doing any more security updates to it. If there's any major security holes that looks like it could be a huge problem, then you could potentially um, go ahead and try to do that. But I mean, they mostly just want you off 7. They're going to update it occasionally if there's a major issue, and that's it. Is that like XP mode? It is kind of like XP mode. That's basically what XP mode is kind of doing, as a virtual XP machine. Yeah, as a simple explanation, it's similar in terms of running another machine on top of Windows already that you're using. So it's not going to be as fast. Like if you're a gamer and you want a different version of Windows, a virtual machine is not your friend. It's not a performance machine like that. But for a lot of people that do servers, it's a very popular way to do servers, because when you have a virtual machine, if you ever need to move that machine from one physical computer to another physical computer, rather than having to reload Windows and reload all your applications, you can essentially just take any machine running any version of Windows that supports that virtualization software. So like Box, here, pull it up. Let me see. I think there's a Box VM is the one I'm thinking of. Where is Box? Do they have it here? VirtualBox. I'm sorry, it's VirtualBox, not Box. That's my bad. So VirtualBox is one that is popular. And VirtualBox essentially, if whatever operating system they support, 7 through 10, you can also run, that's what's called a host, is the operating system that's running the VM, and then the VM that's running is the virtual machine on top of the host. And so with VirtualBox, it will support any version of Windows on any version of Windows, mainly because they make this stuff, like I said, a lot for testing platforms and stuff for programmers. One of the things you can do that's nice with the VM is snapshot it, and so it will take a frozen image of every setting, every file, like everything the way a computer is. And then if you're a programmer, you could go in there and screw around with a bunch of stuff, change settings, maybe rewrite lines of code. And if you botch the whole machine up, all you have to do is say roll back to that last snapshot, and in a matter of seconds, it will just go back to exactly like it was, so you can start testing again. And so that's why there's a lot of operating system support. And it works great if you're doing servers, testing, any of that kind of stuff. But if you're a gamer, or if you want to watch video, like if you're going to stream Netflix, that doesn't work as well in a VM. So it just depends kind of on what the website is in terms of if that would be a workaround. But yeah, they want you to get off 7. I think at this point there's also a lot of security protocols and stuff moving forward that they're trying to get updated in Windows. And so as soon as they can get more and more people off of that old stuff, they can get out of some of those old security protocols, get out of some of that old code base that they don't want to support anymore and keep having to update and come up with patches for. So yeah, I mean, if you can get off a 7, I still have one 7 machine. And the only reason I have that 7 machine is because I've got an old scanner from a company called Umax that's still around, and it is an 11 by 17 scanner. It is huge. It will scan a full-size newspaper, and it is a beast of a scanner. I think it weighs 48 pounds for the scanner, and it still works on SCSI, which SCSI is a dead technology. You can still find parts on eBay and stuff, but there's not really any new SCSI stuff being made. There's some serial attached SCSI that's like a newer version, but the way it used to work and the plugs are not out there anymore except in used stuff. And so that scanner was $800 when I got it for a business at the time that we would use it to scan in products. And great scanner, still a great scanner, still super high resolution, still does a fantastic job. But the software for the SCSI version does not work past Windows 7. And so if you want it to work on Windows 8 through 10, they updated the scanner. They still sell the scanner. And I swear to you, that scanner, I think, is 16 years old now. They still sell the exact same scanner, same resolution, except that instead of SCSI, it uses USB. And instead of being $800, it is $1,600 now for the exact same functionality. And they actually have a thing on there that says if you have one of the SCSI ones, send it in and they will update it to USB and send it back to you. But of course, they told me that would be $800. And I was like, why would I paid $800 new. I don't want to pay $800 again just to get it updated. This is dumb. So I have kept one Windows 7 machine with my old Adaptec SCSI card, and it is on the network and basically never turns on unless somebody needs to scan something, which is not has not happened recently, but when Sheridan was working on a lot of like family photo stuff and trying to scan in a lot of things, it was great for scanning in all kinds of pictures and scrapbooks and stuff. And so for that, I've kept it around, and I just keep that machine off unless we need it. I stuck an SSD and upgraded the RAM, and it's an old machine. It's like that one probably is 10 years old at this point, maybe 11. And I just use it for that. That's all it does is run Windows 7 for that. Use the driver that they never updated for the SCSI version, and we just scan to a network folder, and then you can access the scans from some other machine on the network. So I just kind of work around that limitation with the lack of USB support on it and lack of Windows 10 support. But and I've tried to do a virtual machine. It will not work with a virtual machine. It has to be direct hardware for the SCSI stuff to work. So that's the only reason I've kept around a Windows 7 machine, honestly. So yeah, anyway, it is 8 o'clock already. Man, the time flies. I appreciate those of you that hang out and listen to me blab about technology. Very fun times for me. I enjoy getting to share my knowledge with you all. And again, I am on YouTube and Facebook every Thursday at 7 p.m. Central. And we are covering Q&A stuff right now, different things, tech topics, kind of discussions. But yeah, basically, if you have questions about any kind of tech stuff, I don't really care what area of tech, ask. If I can help, I will. If I can't, I'll point you in the right direction or see if I can find an answer for you. And yeah, I'm going to be getting some new reviews going soon, finishing up some stuff on the setup here that we can use the live stream setup. I'm not even going to tell you what we're doing. We got some new cool stuff that's going to get set up in the next couple of weeks here and start cranking out some reviews. I hope you will enjoy watching those and give me some feedback. And if there's anything you want to see me review or talk about, let me know. Thank you all so much. I'm going to go see my babies and get some dinner. I hope you all have a great night. Thanks again.